All right, thank you everyone for joining today. The 𝗖𝗹ecie session that we done before is Dream Big, Plan Well, and we'll try to briefly look at how to save time by automatically generating cloud target architectures in Txture. So just to go over a brief agenda, I'll do a quick intro about me and Txture. Then we'll look at the current challenges we see in projects. Then we'll imagine a project or client situation. And in this week's session, we'll briefly have a look at the target architecture proposal capabilities of Txture. Quickly to myself, let me introduce myself. My name is Stefan. I'm a partner manager at Txture. And a couple of words about Txture. So we are a software company, and our Txture platform is an end-to-end cloud transformation and continuous modernization software. Gets used by system integrators, enterprise architects, and the Cloud Center of Excellence. What we aim for is that our software can help users to save costs, reduce risks, and speed up complex cloud transformation projects. We do this for all major cloud providers and can also include private products, cloud products. We can have a look at that later. Txture is and was deployed globally in over 100 transformation projects over the last 2 years alone. As said, we are a software vendor, so we don't do consulting. We sell and license Txture with partners, which do then the consulting. But we support our partners and clients in the pre and post sales phases and make sure through specific enablement and training sessions, which also includes a Txture certification program, that they get the best results out of the platform. First, let's have a look at the challenges that I just spoke of. Project teams typically face them, or that we see them out of experience in some of the projects when it comes to target architectures. Of course, there's always a lot of options out there. That's the most obvious one. Then also which sticks our strategy, where and what to migrate first. The cost factors, right-sizing of components is a question there. More and more we see the emissions and energy consumption also be quite important and a challenge to estimate. Checking for industry standards or security certifications, ISOs on all the available products, as well as an overall visualization of possible migration scenarios. That is also something we see that project teams face as a quite a common challenge. Txture can help you to overcome these challenges, and this session we'll have a brief look at how in this particular part of the Txture transformation cockpit we can help to overcome those challenges. First, we build for the sake of this session, we imagine a project or client situation. Let's build a little story. My colleagues Lukas and Max started that in the last 𝗖𝗹cie sessions. You can watch those sessions online. On first the data collection phase, and the second one was the application assessment phase. So let's say again, you have a client in the financial service industry, has a portfolio of around 600 apps to assess in order to make a decision what to move and how to move each application to the cloud. They are considering moving to AWS, GCP, or Azure. It's not set yet, and want to compare these providers to see what the potential costs of those cloud environments would be. All right, for the next part of the session, I would jump into the demo, but before, quickly, I wanted to provide you an overview of what that can show you what all the little wheels that turn in the background of the Txture platform. Someone else joined in. Welcome. So the overview here just was something that I wanted to point out before we jump into the Txture platform to briefly look at the target architecture proposals. Here you can see for the last 2 sessions is the gray area basically that was done in the assessment phases to get the cloud readiness assessment for each application. So we've done the data collection and the assessment. Now we set the target architecture preferences with the help of the customer insights. Use that through our Txture platform and get through the API connections that we have with all the cloud providers in our cloud knowledge engine to then generate all the available cloud proposals out there. And this then helps to generate those proposals, have a look at the bills of materials, that all the components are contained in each proposal, the recommended providers, and accepted costs and right sizings. So I hope you can all see my screen. There we go. All right, so this is where we usually end up when we enter Txture. Today, we're just gonna briefly have a look at the transformation cockpit up here. And here you can see the 4 steps that we have. The previous 2 sessions, as I mentioned, were on the data collection phase as well as the application assessment phase. Today, we're going to have a look at the 3rd part, which is the target architecture, the proposal phase. First, before we start getting into it, we'll have to look at our target architecture preferences, which can be found in the settings up here. So we then go through whatever the strategy of the client is, or your team set as the correct strategy or as the service model in the first place. We can then also establish or set a cloud approach. Let it be a simple lift and shift or any other approach you might want to focus on. Then, as mentioned here in this case, we previously imagined as a theoretical project, it would be the selection of the strategic cloud providers, in this case, the 3 hyperscalers. But there's also always the option to add another one. It might be Alibaba Cloud, any other smaller cloud service provider out there, as well as the option of private cloud products. So if the client already has some sort of cloud system or cloud products, we can map those products in the Cloud Knowledge Engine and make it comparable against other available proposals. So when this is done, there's also the options of choosing preferred landing zones, as mentioned in the challenges, the certification requirements or ISO requirements. There's a endless list of those, especially in the financial sector. If you've had clients in that field before, you know how difficult that is. So there you can just make sure that every single proposal you have a look at, all the containing products have the required certifications or standards. Same goes for hosting locations. You can obviously add countries or change them if there is the required need for it. You can also then define how influential the estimated prices for the rankings and the proposals are, the durations or retaining offers, payment, vendor lock-in, as well as express an importance to keep the carbon footprint of selected cloud proposals as low as possible. Not important, you can also make this very important depending on your client's needs or the strategy you have. There's a couple of technology replacement options, preferred technology rules you can add, default sizing, and so on. Once you've set those preferences and the actual target architecture settings, you save those and then can go into the actual, there we go, thank you very much, into the 3rd step, which is the target architecture and proposal phase. On the left side, we'll see all the application we previously entered the data for and assessed with our assessment rules in the 2nd phase. Here we can see the overview of all applications that we see in the list on the left and the various 6R strategies that are selected or proposed for each and every single application. Also the available proposals per provider, and so on. So this is just the overview for the whole portfolio. Let's, for example, click on the CRM here. As I said, once you select a single application in the portfolio, you can then get way more details on the available proposals and the migration state of it. That is something you can set for each and every single application that also can be quite helpful then during the migration planning. The migration strategy for this CRM application, for example, would be re-platform. Yeah, that's all depending on the assessment rules that were activated, which we've looked at in the previous special session. You can then have a look at available proposals of all the different cloud providers we just selected. Let's say we want to have a look at the cheapest one here, which would be AWS, and then select down here out of those the proposal we are the most interested in. As mentioned before, we have the chance to then see the estimated CO2 emissions as well as the energy consumption of each and every single cloud architecture proposal for an application. Say we click on that selected proposal and want to see, again, all mentioned certifications, all the filters required, and the cloud products that are involved. If we scroll further down, we can also then see the proposal score that every single application has according to the assessment rules and the target architecture preferences we set. So for example, cost factor, same as the cloud migration strategy score, sustainability score, and the lock-in, and so on. What also is quite unique in Txture and very helpful when it comes to making it presentable to a customer is the prices and the bill of materials. Those are not only containing the pricing models and the different overviews, if, for instance, looking at reserved options or on demand, but also Txture provides the opportunity to have a look at the complete bill of materials with the depending right sizing for each component, depending again on the assessed or collected data you had on the previous components. Not just there is a table with the list of components, but also Txture makes it quite visually relatable to see what happens to the actual deployment stack. So here for this CRM, it would tell you what would be replaced, what would be replatformed, and also what would be removed. And then also shows you in this case the addition of some VM storage from AWS. So that it gives you a quite unique opportunity to show it also to the client, but also makes it very relatable for the teams what happens to the stack of each and every application with that proposal, with that provider. So those are just a couple of details that you find for every single proposal. Txture calculates every available proposal, so not just the ones you selected or are the ones that you see here. Those are just the ones that make the most sense in this case. We also have the option of saving certain proposals and also editing proposals or making changes when it comes to components, commenting those changes, and then have a list of the saved proposals so you later have the chance to look at them again or give it to the other team members to have a look at. Also, obviously, with the scales up top here, you can then have the option of comparing certain providers against each other with the most similar looking proposals. Again, also comparing by cost, migration score, migration states, and so on. You always have to scroll down to see the changes and comparison options. So that works for every single application as well as for the whole portfolio. So if we close that asset, that was just an option for a rehosting. But if we look at, let's say, another app on the available proposals on a rehosting, for example, would be the same option again. The three ones the three hyperscalers we selected in the target architecture preferences earlier are now available. If we would have added more, there would be a longer list of available providers. And again, further down, the options that we have in rehosting this application. And if we click again on the details of that proposal, we have again the option to save it. So we'll have it in the list of our saved proposals. And again, on looking on the also the locations where we can host then this application in the cloud service of the selected provider, footprint estimates, and again, if we scroll down, the proposal score, and here also for rehosting, the price and bill of materials. Something that is also possible to export. So the whole overview here is something you can export as a PDF and get a full report on the price and bill of materials of every single application. This gives you a chance to then, again, have either the visualization option to see what gets added, what gets replaced and removed in a stack, but also gives you the option to look at the different actions that are needed to be taken to move the business relation manager into the cloud. You can change those actions. You can change the plan that Txture recommends according to the insights and data you have. So all the proposals that are saved in here can always be added, and all the data that is pulled and seen here when it comes to cost are always up to date. So anything that gets changed or recalculated in Txture is always because of our fetch data that we get from the cloud providers. Yeah, I think this is basically the part of the cloud transformation cockpit that we wanted to give you a brief look at and see the visualization options as well as the different proposal details that you get and the target architecture preferences and the variety of different changes you can do, not just to the source model or the approach, but also to provider choice and certification filters. All right, I could hopefully help you just to maybe go back and put this all together in a couple of values and benefits that the third step of the cloud transformation cockpit in Txture can provide you. It's obviously always more fun to work with a good tool that has overview and provides benefits and less hassle for your teams. It's way less effort to generate different target architecture proposals, comparing them, changing details in them. Every proposal in bill of materials, as I said, is based on the latest data that gets automatically fetched from the CSPs. Every proposal is saved and can be adjusted to cater shifts in strategy or blank cloud native approaches, for example. And Txture gives you the option to centralize everything on one platform. Let it be tracking transformation decisions, migrating process of the portfolio, but also communication with all the stakeholders to keep everyone in the loop. As you can see on the screen, there's options to get in touch with us. If you have further questions, Florian and myself will be happy to answer them, or even set up a follow-up sessions if you have a pilot or a POC in mind where you would like to try the capabilities with some hands-on tasks and maybe some data, some actual data. You can always reach us either via email, link or any on the channel you can see here. I also can recommend to look at our Txture blog online. Yeah, thank you for your time and have a good rest of the day. Thanks again.